Okay, and we are live. Thank you so much for joining me again, guys. I have a new microphone in here, which hopefully should be sounding better. And please just let me know in the comment section if any issues with audio, and I will try and rectify that during the video. I'm just going to wait for confirmation again that we are live. It's saying that we are, but I am not seeing it. Okay, and we are live. Yeah, sorry, we are live. I'm glad to see that. Every time there's a little false start on this. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's go to the new presentation here. 10p in 2022, that's the question I want to answer in today's stream. Can we hit, oh, sorry. There's a mess. I'm going to close my WhatsApp messages so we don't get those coming through on the stream. Yeah, can we hit 10p in 2022? And yeah, that's the question I want to answer today, as well as other topics that we're going to go into is November 14th filings that people seem to be talking about on the Cineworld group. I want to get into my thoughts on that, and then also box office figures. But first, it's going to be, can we hit 10p in 2022? I want to answer that question. Also, by the way, it's not going to be a very long video. I am not feeling great at the minute. I think I have a cold. But I might have COVID. My housemate had COVID last week. I don't know, but I'm feeling very, very rough. I've just taken a couple of ibuprofen, and I probably shouldn't be having whiskey with it, but that's why I've diluted it with a lot of Coke today. And this is, if you're interested, Talisker whiskey. It's pretty cheap stuff, I think, this one. But with Coke, it tastes great. So the first things first, if we can hit 10p, what we need to discuss just briefly is how do you value a business? And the way that I value a business, this is generally how everyone's valuing businesses, basically is how much cash you think the business is going to make you. So if you're buying the business in cash, the reason you're doing that is because you're assuming that that business is going to make you a certain amount of cash. And so the only question is, and this is what everyone disagrees on, is what business is the best to buy now that will produce the most cash in the future? So do you buy a business that is producing a lot of cash currently, or do you buy a business that is going to focus on growing in scale and therefore will be able to give you a lot of cash in the future because of the scale that it would have amassed? So the question for me is, how do you value a business? The question that everyone sort of disagrees on is, how do you work out what cash a business is going to generate over 10 years or a lifetime? And so what we want to know is the amount of cash Cine will make per share. So we're buying shares of the business, so we're buying portions of their earnings, and multiply it by the likelihood it will make that cash per share, factoring in dilution and all the other factors. So it's the amount of cash a business might create multiplied by the odds of success. That's how I'm looking at it. And in this situation of Cineworld, we've got an enormous amount of cash potential, but we have a high, our odds of success are slightly skewed. So let's get into that, why that is. So first of all, Cineworld has an enormous dividend, and actually I've got dividend statistics somewhere else. Did I drop them into this document? Yes, I did. Okay, so Cineworld issued in 2019 a dividend that was around $500 million US, and so this is where I wanted to give some context as to where I pull my valuation statistics from when I'm posting in the Cineworld stock group. My $500 million dividend is what they issued in 2019. I would then go, well, if it's giving me a $500 million dividend, if I own the whole business, then over 10 years, Cineworld is giving me $5 billion just in dividends. And so you could say that in dividends alone, Cineworld is worth $5 billion held over 10 years if you were to purchase it now. You've got to do more calculations than that, but this is a very sort of reduced down valuation, but then basically let's say that it is, then our valuation is 5 billion. Well, for the price per share to be 5p, the market must be factoring in a lot of risk. And so the market's pricing of the stock is as though the bankruptcy likelihood is 90% or close to 90%. Back when it was at 2p, the market was pricing it as though it was 99% likely to go bankrupt. That's why I thought it was incredibly cheap, because at its lowest point, I thought it was only 50% likely to go bankrupt. And in my opinion, bankruptcy is below, the full-on bankruptcy liquidation is below 30% likelihood, in my opinion. But until it manifests, we don't know. But if bankruptcy likelihood is 30%, well, to me, the business is valued at 1.5 billion, and that would be £1.10 per share. And so all I'm waiting for at the minute is for the market to start believing that it's not going to go bankrupt. I'm looking for that 90% statistic, that belief that the market, that Cineworld is 90% likely to go bankrupt, to come closer to where I think it is. And by the time that my 30% is down to say 10%, the market will have gone from 90% fear to sort of 50% fear or 40% fear. And at that point, the share price will be significantly higher. Easily, the overall business, if there is a reduced chance of bankruptcy, would be at around 200 million, easily. Well, that would be 10p per share. Now, I'm saying all of this not knowing what significant dilution is going to be, and that's an important factor. So, but even with significant dilution, if you had 100% dilution, well, the dividend per share would only be reduced by half, so 500 million to 250 million. And this is how we can start to get an understanding of what the impact of dilution would be to the dividend from 2019. So here are the dividends from 2019. I searched it into Google. These are the results. The 2016 dividend was 19p per share. And in 2017, it was 9p per share, 11.69p per share, 8.82p per share. So quite consistently, they're doing 10p per share all the way up to around 20p per share. And right now, the share price is 5p per share. And as of yet, we've had no dilution. And that's something that we thought we would have heard about by this point. Dilution is not being mentioned in any of the bankruptcy filings as of yet. They're not talking about that at all. So currently, the share price is 5p per share. We don't know about, I've not heard about any dilution in any of the bankruptcy filings. The share price is 5p per share, and the dividend in 2016 was 19p per share, and all the way up to 2019. So let's just assume if it's 10p per share, the dividend, we'll be getting a 200% yield. And if you'd invested £1,000 in Cineworld stock, well, if Cineworld gets around to issuing a dividend, maybe not next year, maybe the year after that, but if it gets around to issuing a dividend and we have the same amount of share dilution as we have today, well, then you'll be making a £2,000 dividend on top of whatever the price of your share is. And that's why this stock is seen as crazily cheap at the minute, because 1 year's dividend would represent around 200% yield, which is unprecedented to say the least. And that's why it's seen as such an unholy punt to go into this stock. So this is where I'm thrown out. There's no true perfect valuation because, as I've said here, right, so this is where valuations get tricky. It's that odds of success thing. So cash is one thing. It's relatively easy to predict how much cash a business will make if it's successful. It's very hard to work out whether it is going to be successful. And so that is where all the speculation comes in. So when I issue a price estimation, that is based on Cineworld succeeding on certain things. And I'm saying that I believe Cineworld are going to succeed on certain things. But if they don't succeed on certain things, then obviously the reverse of what I think will happen to the price. Now, one of the important things that we need to happen is we need people to turn up to see blockbuster movies like Black Adam and Black Panther, and these films have been out a little bit now. Black Adam has been out for a little while, so we can actually look at sort of the box office numbers that are coming out of that, audience reactions to it. Now, I've seen some people in the Cineworld group chat saying that they don't like Black Adam. Only a couple, but still, it seems that the audience have responded better to Black Adam than they have to Thor, Love and Thunder, and even Doctor Strange Into the Multiverse. So I think that's really positive to see. I'm just going to check the chat to see if there's any questions on this video. Please do leave your questions in the panel. I'm going to get around to all of them today. So yeah, leave your questions there. I'm just going over to the live stream so that I can just check that there's no extra comments there and you're getting all the footage. Brilliant, you are. Cool. Right, so yes, audiences do seem to be responding well to Black Adam, better than they were to the Thor movies. So maybe it's DC's time. This also bodes well for Warner Brothers Discovery stock, which is a stock that I'm interested in very much. So I'm going to be tracking this, DC versus Warner Brothers Discovery. I think, DC versus Marvel. I think DC have a little bit of an advantage of the fact that Marvel's universe has gotten so overwhelming, so it's so hard to go watch all of the films, and it could be quite exciting to see a universe where there isn't a crazy amount of films to catch up on. And also I'm getting put off by the amount of Marvel TV shows. There's just way too much Marvel content for me to keep up now, and I've given up. So it's going to be a shame when I start going into films and I don't understand little jokes that are going on. I used to be keyed up on all of it, every little joke I used to know, and I know now that I just won't be able to keep up with that, which is a shame. However, speaking of Marvel, Marvel is still doing the best, pulling the biggest figures. What we've got here is Black Panther 2. Black Panther Wakanda Forever has got an incredible audience score and critics score, but no one cares about the critics score. Black Panther 2 has done really well in its opening weekend. Not just well, it broke the record for November. So that's a little bit of a, it didn't break the big blockbuster records, but when you look at the statistics on this film, it's really promising going into Avatar 2. Especially, I've got more to talk about with Avatar 2, but it's amazing to see how well this has done, because that's a signal that people will show up for the big blockbuster films. And so yeah, Black Panther 2 has done incredible. How well has it done? Well, I've got the box office statistics screenshot here. So worldwide, Black Adam, over its entire time it's been released, has made 352 million. And that's great, that's what we want to hear. That is absolutely brilliant. But Black Panther Wakanda Forever has made 355 million in its opening weekend. In one weekend, Black Panther Wakanda Forever has made 350 million in its opening weekend. That's incredible. That's a shocking turnout to this film. And so that's amazing to see. And we can only imagine what Avatar is going to be like worldwide also. But this is with Black Panther 2 being banned in China. And so Cineworld, I do believe, has locations in China as well. And because there is sadly, because there's a gay couple in this film, and I'm saying sadly that China won't allow for this, China have banned it in their country, which is a shame. They also banned Black Adam, I heard, for very different reasons. But yeah, so it's a shame that it's banned in China. It would have made even more money if that was the case, but the opening weekend is incredible. It made, yeah, literally on its opening, made 181 million. And that's compared to Black Adam's opening, which was 67 million. And that 67 million was seen as really good. So this made 3 times Black Adam's opening, which is just immense, and we love to see that. And so, okay, so that is the box office numbers for the minute, and what I'm saying is they're promising. If we wanted good statistics, this is what we'd want to see. But Cineworld is not going to be made on one release or two releases. The beauty is that we have three releases going into December. We've got the third release on its way, Avatar 2. And Avatar 2 is anticipated to be such an enormous film that very few studios have decided to release films in December. And I was originally a little bit worried about that because we want as many films to be released as possible in December, but actually with Glass Onion 2 going into cinemas, we might get that sort of second film that people can go and watch. But yeah, it just means that it's going to add to the hype around Avatar 2. It's going to be the main thing that you're going to want to go see in December, which I think will bode well for the film, and cinema should still do incredibly well. So what I want to talk about next is the November 14 filings. I saw a lot of this being hyped up on the Cineworld stock chat, and originally I was a bit confused because I'm quite keyed up on all of that stuff, and I didn't really know much about November 14 filings. I've realized it's come from this K-roll. This is where Cineworld's lawyers upload all the documents from the filings, and you can see on this there are these dates, and they look quite sort of like important and imposing. We do have the meeting of creditors coming up on the 17th, but the media cover this sort of stuff really well, so I do try and read as much of this as I can, but it's so like written at lawyers that generally speaking, what I'm able to do is when the media come out with information, like really important stuff, because they have people that are used to reading these documents, then I can take that information, I can go back and find exactly where the court filing document was, and I can get extra information. So the main thing I can tell is that from the November 14 filings, and I read through them, but I didn't gain a lot from it. But the main thing is the price didn't react and the media didn't react. So I take that there's no additional information that that has come out of them. It's mainly just reiterating what we have already known about, because I've been talked about the fact that Cineworld are cancelling lease agreements with unprofitable areas and locations, and also have reached agreements with their landlords and stuff like that. It's just putting that into writing. But we do have the meeting of the creditors on November 17th, so that might be interesting to see what comes out of that and see. So November 17th is the next, well, that's today. And so we didn't hear anything. Sorry, yeah, it's November 17th today. The next hearing is December 12th, the omnibus hearing. So this is the notice of the hearing. And it's, yeah, extremely legal talk. So please take notice that on September 7, 2022, the above captioned debtors and debtors in possession commenced the Chapter 11 cases in the United States, Bankruptcy Court, 7th District. Please take further notice. Please take further notice. Please take. So yeah, I'm going to leave this in the description on this video if you want to go through these documents yourself. The next thing that I want to talk about is I want to answer a couple of the questions that have come up in the comment section. Did Cineworld make a profit for H1 of this year? So I've got all the links to everything here. So I can take you to the reports, and I can take you to the H1 financial reports, preliminary results, March 17th, 2022. This will be the H1 results for Cineworld this year. And what you can see, let's close that. Revenue 1.8 million, admissions, losses before tax. So they made a loss in H1 2022. And as I remember correctly, it was March that the film Top Gun came out, and then Top Gun put them into profitability. So they were in profit at Spider-Man, they were in profit in December. Then I think in H1 they made a loss. And then what happened was Maverick brought them into profitability. Then in August, that is when they went down to having only 4 million in cash. So they never officially ran out of money, but they filed for bankruptcy because they anticipated that they were going to run out of money very, very quickly. So they haven't actually officially run out of money yet. It was just the fact that they got so close to not being able to afford interest payments to creditors. But so that is why you're probably reading conflicting news stories, is because the fact that Top Gun Maverick brought them so much revenue so quickly. But what I'm going to go do is I'm going to go to the investors page. I'm going to have to pull this out a bit. I go to the debtor in possession document, which is here, debtor in possession. And they've got a table in here, and I can show you exactly their month-by-month filings for H1, and that will show you exactly where they were and weren't profitable. I know it when I see it, and I can see it there. So let's zoom in on that. This is their debtor in possession document. And you can see that in January, they made a loss of 111 million. In February, a loss of 41 million. Then March, a loss of 71 million. Is that right? Yeah. Then in April, a loss of 12 million. Then in May, 23 million profit. Then in June, a loss of 12 million. Then in July, a profit of 11 million. And then it was August that they got really low. So you can see that the amount of cash that they had, their cash balance, started at 350 million thanks to Spider-Man. So they actually had 350 million in cash thanks to Spider-Man. Then they had 239 million. They went down in cash, they went down in cash. And this is because you can see here, they had to pay 15 million to dissenting shareholders. So that's Regal in these 2 months. So they paid 50 million, 18 million, 5 million and 10 million to dissenting shareholders. And then another 10 million. So all of this is legal debacle. Then you've got the interest and principal. So this is the interest on their loans that was going to get really high in August. So they paid 7 million, 3 million, 59 million. And this is the crazy bit. So you just got these sudden jumps. So March and June, where they paid 59 million and 56 million. Had it not have been for these payments, Cineworld would have been making a profit, it would seem. So yeah, but they've got to make these payments. And that's the important thing. And that's why we're here today in a bankruptcy filing, is working out how Cineworld are going to cover these interest payments. And it seems like because of this refinancing that they might have a real opportunity to do that. And that combined with these 3 films, Black Panther 2 doing enormous box offices, that they might be able to make the profit they need to and pay down the interest on these loans quite easily, quite happily. But we also need good blockbusters, not just in December. We need them January, February, March next year. We need to be able to cover for several months. That's the important thing. We want a sustainable business, but that's where the cancellation of capital leases becomes so beneficial to us. The capital leases are also an important thing, taking away revenue of Cineworld. Okay. Is it still on the table as the Chapter 11 proceedings all seem to be going in Cineworld's favour? And so is it still on the table? Yeah, it's all still on the table, 100%. It's still on the table. I don't, the fact is, we just don't, yeah, that we don't, oh God, it's just hard to say. I don't want to, this is still a punt. There's a big risk here, but yes, I think all is still to play for with regards to Cineworld. But that being said, there's enormous risk. One of the worst things that can happen as an investor is for you to lose your investment. And so, yeah, that is why I think so many big investors are staying away from this. Another thing that I was thinking about today was that if you were an investor that was looking to invest, actually, that thought is half-baked, so I'm just going to save that for another video. Do you expect the positive sales of Smile, Black Adam, Black Panther 2 and hopefully Avatar 2 to drive up the share price like Top Gun did? Cineplex have good results recently, including their National Cinema Day. Yes, but we are only going to know what the financials from these films are in January, 45 days after the period. So H2 ends obviously at Christmas, and therefore we will only know January, February, around February earliest, how well this term has gone. Bankruptcy filings may mean that we know sooner. I'm not typically used to trying to get information out of bankruptcy filings, but yes, these films will help with the share price. But the main thing, as I've talked about in my valuation here, the share price is not in question. So in terms of, sorry, the profits of this business are not in question. So people have, I think, a good idea of how profitable Cineworld can be, And I think they're expecting these films to make good profits. But what they're worried about is the interest payments that they need to pay to its creditors. And there's actually a lot of ambiguity about how much Cineworld has to pay to its creditors. It's not information that really gets published that much. And so the question of the bankruptcy likelihood is what's affecting the stock price at the minute. The second that the likelihood of every time that the bankruptcy likelihood goes down, that the share price is going to go up. And so yes, profitability of these films will affect the bankruptcy likelihood, but the fact is the bankruptcy filings are the main thing that are going to tell us whether Cineworld are going to go bankrupt or not when the film's profitability comes out. And also 30% of Cineworld's revenue comes from things like popcorn and Coke. Those things also have to sell well in order for Cineworld to be coming out of a bankruptcy Chapter 11 filing. They have to be making profitability of those too. And in this market, we don't know how much people are spending on those things. So yeah, I think we will have to take Cineworld's bankruptcy filings and the motions. So they have motions come out every day, new announcements coming out every day as to what is going on with the stock and what's going on between the creditors and the shareholders and all of that, and management. So we will be getting news coming out when agreements are made, when hands are being shaken, and if Cineworld get a lot of cash and are able to pay off creditors during the bankruptcy filing, when that happens, then if that happens, say Avatar comes out, it makes a ton of money, we'll find out from their bankruptcy filings, not from their annual reports. So this is a very different stock than we're used to. It's a different way of valuing a business than we're used to. But yes, I do expect the profitability, of course, the profitability of these films will affect Cineworld's ability to pay its creditors. And Cineworld only had, in my opinion, 1 month in which they couldn't pay their creditors. And so now they've got 3 big blockbuster hits. They have no excuses. This is the time to see if Cineworld can afford its debt. So, okay, that seems to be all the questions in the comment section. Thank you so much, guys, for writing in. I hope you enjoyed this video and have a lovely day.